All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you've joined us from. I am Simran representing the Global Skill Development Council. And if at any point, if you have any questions, any doubts, any queries, then feel free to use the chat box. We have our wonderful panelists who will be sharing such a great insight about our AI adoption in governance, right? So, and if you also want to share your reactions, your enthusiasm, then please feel free to also make use of our react button, share like, share your enthusiasm. So we know that you are also learning from this session and absorbing from this session. While I share my screen and tell you more about GSDC, we would love to know where all you have joined us from. So please feel free to use the chat box to also share your locations, and we'd love to know where you have joined this session from. On behalf of Global Skill Development Council, we welcome you all to world's leading AI adoption virtual conference. From AI experimentation to enterprise scale execution, build an agentic workforce that delivers measurable business impacts. What makes it truly exciting is the experts of panel that we have lined up. Some of them have given their incredibly powerful insights already, and we had some wonderful discussions in our entire AI adoption series, and today is governance. Some of them will today be sharing their expertise and their insights on how AI is going to take care when there is mishap or there is when AI goes wrong, who will be responsible? So this is the discussion that we will have today. So stay tuned for it. If you are new to today's session or if you have never heard about GSDC, let me quickly give you an introduction of who we are, what we do. Global Skill Development Council is a globally recognized certification governing body. We have over 100 plus authorized training partners. We're also accredited by ABICB, and all of our media initiatives are supported by World Press Hub. We have over 100 plus certification portfolio, over 500 plus subject matter experts. We have already certified 250,000 plus professionals with over 1,000 plus multinational corporates in collaboration and 50 plus universities. As I mentioned earlier, we have over 100 plus certification portfolio that includes generative AI and agentic AI, learning and development, emerging technologies, ISO quality, project management, agile and ITSM, SRE DevOps, emerging technology, blockchain, and many more. I want to also give a quick shout out about our lifelong learning initiative, GSDC AI Studio, where we host 100 plus live monthly sessions with global experts. These sessions are 45 minutes expert-led sessions where you will be able to directly learn from AI leaders around the world, apply those concepts immediately, and get your questions answered. From hype to impact, the AI adoption journey. We have already covered how organizations see the value of AI. Once you have already described the value, the ROI of business to AI, how do you deploy that? We have also covered the whole deployment of AI on how we can ensure there's a human in loop and there's a seamless transition. when it comes to deployment. We have also done our orchestration on how to orchestrate who will be responsible to take care of it and give AI agents the leverage and the authority to run their task in a workforce, in an organizations, and how are we preparing our workforce in the AI evolution world. That is also covered in Upskill. Which brings me to the highlight of today's session. We are honored to welcome an exceptional panel of global experts who are at the forefront of AI governance, enterprise transformation, and responsible AI adoption. Together, they bring decades of experience on practical insights on how organizations can innovate with confidence while ensuring accountability and trust. First up, I would like to welcome our first panelist of today's session, Ahmed El Wasimi, Head of IT Strategy and Governance, National Bank of Egypt. Ahmed brings over 25 years of experience in IT governance, risk management, and compliance. He specializes in responsible AI, helping organizations balance innovation with strong governance, security, and accountability. Ahmed, it is great to have you. Can you please say hi to all of our participants who have joined us today? I'm sorry, you must be on mute, Ahmed. Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Simran.
you, Sim.
Great introduction. Thank you for all people that are going to join us through this panel and for great this event. Hope will meet your expectations and knowledge from this event, from this panel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Next up, I would like to also welcome Lucien Grua, who is the head of data science at Ciclum. Lucien is the global head of data science with over 13 years of experience across fintech, aerospace, and medtech. He specializes in building secure enterprise scale AI platforms and advanced AI architecture. Lucien, it's great to have you. Would you please introduce yourselves to all of our participants?
Hello, everyone. So I'm talking from Romania. I'm working in AI space for more than a decade now, and I cannot be more excited and living these times on to have such an opportunity to build systems that are building systems and to work so deeply the technical level on AI governance, on AI data privacy, security, and all the operational risks, which are we are going to talk about today. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm most than honored to be part of this panel. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Lucien, and all the best. Last, we have Bhargav Desai. Bhargav Desai leads an enterprise AI adoption and enablement at LTM, where he focuses on turning AI potential into business value through workforce enablement, change management, and large-scale AI transformation. Bhargav is the head of enterprise AI adoption and enablement at LTM. Bhargav, would you please introduce yourself to our participants?
Hey, hi everyone. Very excited to be part of this. And I would like to share my experience on what I've seen in real life AI at scale implementations and how the governance plays a very critical role in that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for joining in today. So moderating this session will be my colleague Imsu Sangla. Imsu Sangla is the Director of Enterprise from APAC and India, who brings over a decade of workforce transformation and strategic talent development in Global Skill Development Council. She leads impactful conversations on future-ready skills and AI adoption. So it's great to have you as well. And before I hand over the mic to you and to all of our panelists, I also want to share that we are going live on YouTube and LinkedIn as well and other social media platforms. So if you have any questions, then please save your questions towards the end of it. We will try as much as we can to get your questions answered from all of our panelists. And lastly, I said if you have any questions, any concerns, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. We would also be loved to watching your reactions and your enthusiasm throughout the sessions. So make sure you also share those with us. Over to you, Imsu, and all the best to our panelists. We really look forward to today's session. Thank you.
Thanks, Simran. And hi, everyone. Very excited to be moderating yet another session Quick apologies to Bhargav. Yeah, I just saw the poster. I think your designation and organization was mentioned wrongly, so we will quickly correct that before we also present it at the end of the session. So yes, like I said, I'm genuinely excited to, moderate this one because tonight is the session that ties everything together. I'm not going to pinpoint everything that Simran had just mentioned about the past few weeks, where we wanted to cover the entire AI adoption cycle. So we obviously started with value, then deploy, orchestrate, and last week we had a great set of panel speakers who spoke on upskill, the human side, because no technology succeeds without the people behind it. So today with Govern, we asked the question that underpins every single one of those modules: who is responsible when something goes wrong? Because you can prove the value, deploy at scale, orchestrate brilliantly, and train every employee, right? But if you can't answer the accountability question, all of it is perhaps on a very unstable foundation. So yes, to close this summit, we will be talking about Govern with our exceptional panelists. So like I always do for every panel discussion, I want to engage the audience as much as possible. So let's begin with our first poll, where we would like to understand how mature is your organization's AI governance practice right now? This will help us to start the conversation. Is it no formal policy? We're figuring it out as we go. Early conversations, nothing documented yet. A policy exists, but it's not consistently followed, or is it a structured framework actively enforced? I'd be very surprised if it's the fourth option.
While we're while we're waiting for the poll results, I would like to also request all of our panelists to keep their videos on and possibly their mic on also. So it's great to have their video on. Perfect.
So let's perhaps see the results of the poll, what it says. Great. I think a majority of you have perhaps mentioned no formal policy. We're figuring it out as we go. So I guess this panel discussion is help you all out to understand how does Govern work, right? And who is responsible. So we will begin at the foundation. Before you can govern AI, you need to know who's actually doing the governing. So that probably, sometimes sounds obvious, but yet in most organizations, it's surprisingly unclear. As the first option also mentions on the poll here, no formal policy, we're figuring it out as we go. So maybe we start with Lucian, with you. We would like to know, what are the biggest risks you see when companies use AI without a proper governance framework in place? And when you're sharing your views, if you can also, cite some examples.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So first of all, AI is so much, and the AI realm, and especially in software development, is so much hype today, so that there, of course, many people are starting to work on their own, and that generates the lack of governance on many organizations. This, first of all, is a challenge on the level of the communication level of any organization that we are working with, either internally or other clients we meet. Because in general, lack of communication and lack of alignment across different visions from bottom to top, or the reverse, this is a risk itself, organizationally speaking. Now, AI systems are also not that deterministic as they use, like as traditional software used to be. So when we work with undeterministic systems, we don't actually know precisely, we know just probabilistically what is the expected outcome there. So this may come with a lot of other additional challenges, from data privacy issues, from operational bottlenecks, right? So you don't know you have a system that is undeterministic, so you don't know what to expect in terms of performance or operational bottlenecks. This is one of the good examples that people are underestimating a lot the response time. People are underestimating a lot of the concurrency of multiple AI systems. So this generates unpredictable operations. Data privacy is also high risk because you don't know where you are sharing, or if you don't know where you are sharing your data, you don't know how to predict what will happen with your data in the future. And this is, of course, critical to domains such as healthcare, such as finance, such as banking, right? FinTech, medtech. All these are like very critical because they are working with personal data of people. And AI systems are compared to traditional systems are not just database store. They can also infer, and they can perform deduction against the data, so they can see the unseen. These are long-term risks which we all are exposed without the proper governance. And operational and privacy, I would say, is the main risk that organizations are tackling today. It comes also with a lot of effort on enablement and education in terms of trainings or certifications, internal certifications. So a lot of investment should be done there so that everyone is aligned with this and understanding these risks properly so they can prevent them. So hype comes with these challenges, and these challenges are generating the risks, and the risks can be tackled with a lot of effort. So that's my overall conclusion on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucian. Very well said. First round it is, so I wouldn't give my views just yet. So I'll just quickly move to Bhargav. Bhargav, since you're heading enterprise AI adoption and enablement at LTM, my question to you is AI regulations are growing around the world. So how do you keep up with the changing rules without it becoming a full-time job?
Thanks, Insu, for the question. I think it's a very practical challenge, right? All of us worry about it with the kind of growth that we are seeing in AI, right? And everybody is now joining the bandwagon. Everybody is trying to move to agentic AI and native AI, right? So that's the future maturity, the curve that we are seeing. It's a very practical challenge. So what I would say is, and the way I've kind of been looking at a lot of my clients and the teams that I've been working with, is that we are kind of underrating the governance discipline, right? One very important thing that is happening, as Lucian mentioned, right, the proliferation of agents, right? There are a lot of agents within the ecosystem that are growing, and what are they touching, right? We need to have a very complete inventory, something similar to what the CMDB database has for the IT inventory, right? So that kind of a governance inventory needs to be in place to ensure that we know what agents are touching where, right? So that's the first thing. Second, in terms of the regulation, right, it's not that we will only act once the regulation, like say EU Act is passed, right? EU AI Act is passed. It has to be done probably 18 months in advance to make sure we are preparing well in advance for those regulations. And what we have kind of at LTM, we have created a framework which we call +1 framework. So basically, it's kind of saying that AI is always one step ahead of you in terms of technology growth, right? And the models are growing maybe at a pace which was not seen till last 60 years, right? So with that, what we are saying is that with the framework that we have, the governance is basically at a very core, which is at a stability layer. So there are 3 layers in the framework that we say, and governance sits as a base layer. So it has to be defined at a level that it is not impacted by the versions of the models that are coming up, right? With every model coming in, we don't need to change the governance approach. So that's the second piece. And the third, I believe Lucian also mentioned and Simran also mentioned, is about the technical capability and the AI literacy obligation, right? The EU Act also very compulsorily mandate that the people who are touching and using and making decisions based on the AI helpers, they need to be very clearly trained. They need to know what they are approving. They need to know what they are going to manage, and whether they have authority to negate or kind of discard the decision that the system has taken, right? So those are the 3 things I would say primarily that we do at LTM. So if I had to summarize, basically what we need to do is we need to create that governance layer, which is briefed and very stable. then we also need to have people who are able to understand what they're doing, and then have that a singular view of what the agents are doing and where the inventory is. So those are the three things. How do we manage the regulation along with the incoming flow of all the regulations that are coming from the industries, right? So that is going to happen. But if we are ready and maybe 2 months, 6 months ahead of it, we can very well manage rather than making it a full-time job for us.
Great, Bhargav. So it's really about building the muscle into the organization. So I wouldn't usually take up any question during the panel discussion, but because this question has come just now during the first round, if anybody would like to answer, I think it's by Mohammed Azhar. He says, is there a template to capture the agent inventory details?
Good question, Mohammed. So I'll take a stab at it. I would welcome Ahmed and Lucien to kind of give their perspective, definitely. So yes, there are ways to do it. So if you're using a preferred platform at your organization, right? If it is, say, there are multiple LLMs based platforms that are available, and there are SLMs also, small language models, which are kind of being used to create those inventories. You can have a kind of a simple kind of running inventory of all the agents, which we call marketplace in our ecosystem. So all the agents which are available for usage at an enterprise level, we create a marketplace for all the agents, which has all the skills that the agent can talk about and execute. What are the risks? What are the benefits out of that agent? So there is a kind of a published inventory of all the agents that are available. So we call it a marketplace, and anybody in the ecosystem in the organization is allowed to use those agents within the ecosystem. So that's how we manage it within the system.
And I would like to add here, so it's a caveat on this. We also build like marketplaces, of course, but many people are building their own agents. Sometimes they're pulling those agents into the workflows. And the thing here is, and I'm circling back to the initial my initial answer, is the risk that this brings into the scene, because some of the agents might be not auditable or might be malicious, right? So how do we actually verify everything? Through other agents, of course, by inspecting all the repositories. So the way you would do traditionally network audit or repository code audit. It's similar on how you check whether there exist or within your space agents, and what is their potential behavior, which usually can be only estimated, but then brings you a step forward. If you estimate their behavior, you cannot really debug MD files, but you can at least understand what would be their expected behavior, and then that helps you go one level deeper in inspecting them if needed. So this is how we do this audit.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Lucien and Bhargav, for responding to Mohammed's question here. So keeping the first round's discussion on AI, who owns AI governance and risk, I would like to close this with Ahmed with the question. Some people see governance as a brake on innovation. So have you found situations where having good governance actually helped you move faster or win business?
Yes, especially in this questions, governance was not an optional anymore. So now it's, nowadays I can see if you come 15 years back or 20 years back, governance was at its stage. Now it's becoming mature. So you can't now move forward without having policies in place, procedures in place, racy metrics, who will be accountable, who will be responsible, who will be informed, and who will be consultant. This is not becoming an optional anymore in the era, because as Lucien and Bhargav said, AI is now becoming sky is the limit. So there is no limit. You have the tools in place. Every day a tool comes, you can develop whatever you want, but you must have a governance model in place to know the role of each person in the loop. because you can develop things with AI and don't know who will do what, who will be in the loop, who will not be in the loop, who will be on the top. Because now the use cases, every use cases, especially the critical ones in any industries such as financial industries where I'm coming from, you can take now any critical decisions without having a human on top or human in the loop, because will end up with somehow, the AI tools might get, you have to ensure that it is not biased, it is not having a reputational risk, or doesn't expose the organization itself to any type of risk. So it is not a break. It's considered the first line of defense regarding the tool, setting the rules and the policies and procedure in place, just because you have to protect the organization from regulatory requirements, exposure regarding penalties. So when it comes to the costly mistakes, it costs us, the organization, a lot of money to pay. So you have to ensure that this is all protected. So that's briefly the main points that should be considered regarding it. Is not a break, it's just you have the structure to be in place. All people knows what to will do and to protect regarding this models of AI that will be proposed in the future.
Great, very well said, Ahmed. Of course, you need a substantial team who can take, certain kind of accountability, like you also mentioned, right? Human in the loop. It's very essential to make any final decisions. So thanks for, winding up the first round so well. So we will be moving to the second segment where we will be talking about spotting and reducing AI risk. So since like every panel discussions we've done, I will be pulling up, I will ask Simran, our host, to put up the third poll. I think we missed on the second one, but no worries. We will go on the third poll to understand from the audience what's the biggest AI risk your organization is currently underestimating. We'd love to know, is it bias in outputs affecting real people, data privacy and leakage, over reliance with human oversight, or is it moving too fast without proper testing? Maybe for this poll, I can just ask the panelists if they think, the majority here, which says that 33% of you, data privacy and leakage. Do you think it stands true for your organization as well? Maybe one of you can, answer on that.
This one, the first thing I answered when you asked me about the risk, right, of the privacy, right? Leakage, yeah, of course, it comes in the same package, but it's not only ours; it's every single organization.
Right. Thanks for your info there, Lucian. So yes, honestly, the second round, I thought we'll play it a little different. We do like a rapid fire round, but I understood, the questions that hasn't summed up, it's not really possible to answer within 45 seconds, but, we'll just keep it as it is. So maybe, we can start off with Ahmed here. Love to know, what kind of risk do you look for before launching an AI system? If you can walk us through how you assess whether something is safe to go live.
Yes, you have to ensure at the beginning, we have two major risks that you should take care of. You in the poll, you have exposed a biased. You have to ensure that the model is not biased regarding the algorithm biased or dataset biased or regarding any set of human bias, anything related to the bias. You have to ensure that the model is also explainable. It should be explainable. You should know exactly the data sources that the model read from. Also, the transparency risk. So this you have to ensure the transparency regarding laws and regulation, explainability, and the agentic by if the agent, you have to know if it is transparent or not. You must have a testing team that test against bias and transparency regarding any type of this. Also, you have to ensure your algorithms, the data sources. Another thing that is very, very, very important, which is the biggest risk, as I have seen many organizations now moving very, very fast without taking in consideration dedicated resources. You have to ensure that you have the dedicated resources in place that is scalable also regarding your models. You have to ensure that you have the dedicated infrastructure, the dedicated hardware, the dedicated GPUs, and also the talented resources that they are going to develop or run these AI tools. You must have it. This is regarding you have to ensure that these are in place because they are go very fast without looking to the scalability. For sure, you have to ensure that the model is not biased and it's transparent. Also, the resources should be in place, the technical resources, even also the business side.
Great said. Thanks, Ahmed. Part of
Yes.
directly to you, I would also like to know, how does your organization catch AI problems early before they reach clients? Do you have a review process, a checklist, or something else? This is, I believe, is a very important question when it comes to governance point, right? So if you can let us know what your experience here entails.
I think it's kind of a multi-layered approach, right, which we take and which I've seen in the real deployment of agentic AI solutions, right? So it's kind of interesting that we still mimic the human behavior, right? So when we deploy an agentic AI solution, and how does it kind of what are the challenges? How do we create a checklist to make sure it is safe, right? We are reducing the AI risk. So we make and mimic that the agent is kind of behaving the way humans would react, right, in a typical situation. So we don't kind of just rely on a checklist, because checklist is kind of an illusion in this agentic world. Because if you have a checklist, you said, okay, I've done this, I've checked 3 boxes. It doesn't mean that agentic AI or the agent would behave as Lucian mentioned. It is not a deterministic view, right? It is always probabilistic. So we don't know how the agent would behave. So the checklist is a very static way of doing it, which was true for a digital kind of systems, ERP systems, which was kind of deterministic in nature. So we don't rely on just the checklist. There are kind of pre-launch and post-launch approaches that we look at. So before launching, right, we as I said, we mimic the user experience, whether the agent is behaving the way it should work, right? Second, we also do kind of adversary prompts, right? We try to provoke the agent. We try to make sure agent goes rogue, okay, to see if it is kind of behaving the way it should not. That's very important, given that we are seeing a lot of those cases in the recent past where the agent kind of wiped out the entire database, right? So we try to do that adversarial check as well on the pre-launch. And third, we also try to make a human oversight, where probably the guardrails as to when the human should definitely take over from the agent if there are any critical kind of hot spot exchanges that needs to be done. So that is all pre-launch definition of the guardrails. Now, this is kind of still very logical, right? This is something that people do. But the post-launch is very critical, because what happens is that with the advancement of these models that are coming up, right, every 3 months or 6 months, a new frontier model comes in. And with that, whatever your, say, a 6-month-old agent was deployed on, say, a GPT version 5, and now it is 5.2, it is not going to behave the same way. You have to evolve post the model. So how do you evolve post that is something that we need to very clearly define. So we have to define the runtime governance, right? It is not just a kind of fixed governance that is there. So what we call is kind of in a future, it is going to be called, say, a control tower, right? Typically like an ATC, every incoming flight they are monitoring. Similarly, a control tower is a runtime governance which measures the behavior of the agents, and there are upticks, there are kind of rogue behaviors, we try to monitor it, and we call it behavioral architecture, right? So all this are a kind of pre-launch, post-launch behavioral patterns that we manage, and we reduce the risk of agents.
Thanks, Bhargav, for sharing, what's working and, all the scenarios and the checklists. So, Lucian, giving you a scenario, right? Your AI gives a client some wrong information, but nothing bad has happened yet. So do you tell the client proactively, fix it quietly, or wait and see?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I think everyone has this challenge now. It's very hard to evaluate actually the answers that are coming from AI engines. Although we put evaluation pipelines in place, although we have self-evaluation pipelines or on top of the evaluation pipelines, although we have different metrics with human-in-the-loop evaluation as well, there's still a risk here, right? So I think this is the first assumption we should do. Don't fully ever trust an AI system, but also don't fully trust an human agent as well. They can both do mistakes. So the best practice here is starting with this assumption. You always have a zero trust on everything, and do the best practices, execute the best practices according to industry standards to verify the outputs on any software system. So this is the first assumption we do. Of course, I won't come and say to anyone, like, we don't say proactively to clients this, or we are fixing it quietly. Transparency, I think it's one of the strength that is very appreciated in software development. But this is not the case, because now we are not in an era anymore where we have wrong information, we have red flags, and nobody sees them. With the rise of AI, the dashboards and the monitoring systems evolve so much that everyone can get on their language, on their terminology. They can get updates. They can understand visually or conversationally how the systems are doing, whether if the evaluation pipeline fails or not, whether maybe an LLM has a degraded performance. So these things cannot be hidden anymore. There is no doesn't exist anymore the situation where a technical maybe manager, an engineer hides something from a client or from a manager because of any barrier, any terminology barrier, or any technical background gap. There is no point in that anymore, because now we are in an era when anyone can communicate in their own language. We have very powerful observability, AI-powered observability, and even that may fail as well. But if you combine zero trust with a good observability, you get the trust actually that you need, and transparency. And that's the main assumption how you drive it. I did not face any situation when we had a degraded performance and we had to inform or not the clients, because they knew the same thing as we knew. So we all have the same visibility in the same time, right? It's just a matter of how you handle proactively, of how you roll out production grade systems, not going from development directly to prod without proper testing pipeline. Yes.
Right.
So that's
Thanks, Lucian. I think you gotta have, a little bit of trust issues before you can prove, 100% credibility. So thanks for your answer there.
it's every
Yeah.
developer's case, right? So it's not only me. I think it's standard.
Great. So yes, I think we've rounded up round 2 as well. Now we will be talking about regulations, compliance, and staying prepared. So I think one of you also spoke about the regulatory landscape around AI, which is changing faster than most organizations can keep pace with, right? The EU AI Act, the US executive orders, local regulations in banking and healthcare, name it, public sector. It's a moving target. So before we, ask questions to our panel here, we would again love to know from the audience, how is your organization approaching incoming AI regulation? So if we can pull up poll number 4. ready to share for everybody to give their inputs here. How is your organization approaching incoming AI regulation? Are you already compliant? We're ahead of it, actively working on it right now, watching, waiting, not started yet? Or is it honestly, we haven't thought about it? Very mixed answers, and I was suspecting maybe nobody is going to, answer already compliant, we're ahead of it, because then we will put you on this panel and have you answer the questions that are remaining. So yes, I think we can start this round with Pargav. Yeah, we can also keep the answers for poll shared. Okay, great. So, Bhargav, new AI regulations are coming up in many countries. So, we would love to know, how is your organization preparing and what steps have you taken so far?
I think this is kind of a continuation to the earlier question, right? As I mentioned, as most of the organization, and we saw in the response, right, people are always kind of on the back seat when they talk about mitigating and managing the regulations, especially for, say, smaller organizations which are kind of limited in a geographical presence and they are not directly impacted by, say, an EU act. For them, they might have at least a headroom for, say, maybe 5 to 6 months to kind of catch up by the time their local regulators kind of come in and bring in those AI Act. But if any organization which is, say, either having employees in say EU or using any PII of the EU users, right, they have to be compliant. Now, what it means is that if we don't prepare in advance, we are catching up, right? And it, as I mentioned earlier, we organizations usually wait for 6 to 18 months to kind of make sure that they are managing the regulations, they are understanding the regulatory languages. But a very basic thing that each organization can do, and especially the AI teams can do, is that they can do a classification of their agents, right? Earlier, most of the agents, say probably 3 years, 4 years back, most of the agents were kind of chatbots, right? And a lot of us were kind of ticking a checkbox saying that, okay, I have an agent which is just in chatbot. Now with EU Act coming in and all these AI agents coming in, we cannot just say, okay, my agent is a chatbot. We need to have a documented evidence and a rationale as to whether it is really a chatbot or whether it is an agent which has a downward impact or an impact on my decision tree, on my workflows. And that clear evaluation and documentation is very critical, right? And this ties back to my earlier statement saying that we need to have an inventory of all the agents that are being used, right? So what are they being used for? What is their capability? What are the skills? What is the impact? So all this will create a kind of an inventory, and then we use a classification as to whether what level of impact each of this agent would carry. So that's the basic thing that each organization managing and working with agentic AI should do. The second is a lot of the organizations are using, say, LLMs, third-party agentic AI solutions, right? And what misconception is there is that we can transfer our risk to the vendors, right? With EU Act, it is very clear that you cannot transfer your risk. So if you are using a third-party agentic solution, you still are at risk. Even though they are compliant to, say, a SOC 2 or EU AI Act, they are compliant. If anything goes wrong with your data, your organization is going to be penalized for that, right? So you cannot transfer your risk to a vendor, which used to happen in most of the cases till now. So that's the second challenge to be addressed. And the third one is kind of audit trails, as Lucian was mentioning, having those right audit across the systems, monitoring them, making sure the language disclosures are done, and all those living documentation are managed, right? So that's the third thing. And fourth, again, I would reiterate, EU Act says that the AI literacy obligation is on the organization. So if the AI council or people who are using agentic AI, if they're not aware, they're not trained, they're not certified, they're not capable of using it, you are at risk. So some of the regulations we cannot manage because everything is not manageable by the organization, but proactively we can do at least the classification, we can do, make sure the vendor, we avoid that vendor risk, a loophole which used to happen earlier, we avoid that, and we bring in that AI literacy in place. So at least these three can be done very effectively before you get hit by another regulation.
Right. I mean, it's also about building, readiness into the culture, right? Yes. So, Ahmed, next question is for you. Just want your expertise and your understanding. How do you prepare for rules that you know are coming but aren't fully in place yet? So, do you wait or do you start getting ready now?
Wait, I think no, now everyone have known what is the common landscape for the evolving risks. Because we are all around the world, even industry leaders have a common ground regarding what we also have in the previous question regarding you have to be ready. Because if you wait for the regulatory requirements, regulatory requirements sometimes take a lot of time to be published regarding to have the law and the compliance organizations to have this in place. It might take a lot of time. So, and now you have to be ready to market. It's not a time to sit in the back seat. You have to be in the front. You have to be ready. So my advice, you have to start from now. You have to set the main policy for the AI. By the way, it is not, you can't treat AI as a technology. It is a complete transformation for everything in your organization. So you have to put the building blocks or the cornerstones regarding we have said the bias, because there is no regulatory will be accepting any bias regarding the agent, regarding the transparency, regarding you must have a decision rights clear in your place, risks should be identified. Also, the impact on the business should be there, because if you are going to depend on AI agents for doing business, so you should know exactly the impact on the business when this AI hallucinate or do have something have gone bad. You have to know exactly what you are going to fix and what time it will take, and what is the impact regarding the organization of what will gonna happen. So all of these things should be clearly identified, because if executives doesn't have confidence regarding the AI development and innovations, it will be somehow not gaining confidence. You should have the risks should goes down, and let confidence for sure become high regarding investing in AI, and uh, taking the initiatives to have the business tools in place and the business go ahead speed to market. So you have to have these things in place defined, and you should have be ready with the models, because once the regulatory requirements have been published, you should be the first to market.
Great. And I also think, since we're talking about governance, proactive governance should be the strategic posture. So very well said, Emma. Thank you for your views on that. Lucian, for you here, if your organization works across different countries, how do you handle the fact that AI rules are probably different in each place?
Yeah, thanks. So luckily, with the power of LLM now and knowledge engines that we are building, first of all, we normalized all the documents that we get. So basically, scanning the regulations regularly, pulling the knowledge into our systems, and then trying to understand what are the common parts, which are the gaps, right? And then depending on the location, so we are in at least 12 locations, 12 different countries with 12 different potential regulations. Then we try to treat them individually, but also focus on the common parts, because we don't want to duplicate the effort processing, the computing power to processing all the common parts of the document. That's the first stage of processing, making sure you know the commons. Then the gaps are being analyzed differently. And this has ramifications into internal systems, into communication, into data retention policies, into way you are building, even like preparing the audit pipelines for your code bases. So it pretty much has, of course, ramifications in all processes within the company. Now, regulations across different countries were here forever, right? Now, the difference is that we have more regulations. They are coming more faster, and they are changing more often than before. And sometimes there are also a lot of gray zones within the definition of regulations that you need to identify. So here is where also we develop our own knowledge management systems and try to tackle the problem from different perspectives with multiple agents, multiple LLM models. So we make sure we don't have a biased view. We make sure we don't have hallucinations there. And if there are, they are challenged. And as Bhargav mentioned earlier, so they are cross-challenging and they're verifying each other until we know we have an answer close to an accurate 100% accuracy one. Of course, humans in the loop are coming later, but the first initial stage of understanding with AI is crucial, because otherwise it will take too long with just human eye review to be up to date with all the regulations, and this exposes the organization to risks, of course. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lucian. So, governance and regulations are only half the equation, right? The other half is what happens when a client or a board member or a regulator looks at you and says, explain to me how the AI made that decision, right? So now we will be going to round 4, where we will be talking on transparency, explainability, and mitigation plans. So another participation from the audience, where we would like to understand, this is poll number 5. Can your organization currently explain in plain language how a key AI decision was reached? So let's see what the participants here have to say. If the host is ready, can we have poll number 5 pulled up, please? Yes, it's on your screen. The options are, yes, we have full explainability, partially for some systems, not all. Not really, it's a known gap we haven't closed, or is it we haven't been asked yet, but we'd struggle? I think I opened the, whenever the results are ready to be shared, if, one of the panel speakers can also probably speak on the data that they see, if it's, again, similar to what your organization is currently facing. Majority says not really, 54%, and not really, it's a known gap we haven't closed. So any inputs from our panelists here as well, if you'd like to contribute? Maybe, Bhargav, what is happening in your organization as well?
Yeah, I think we, as Lucian was saying, there is an observability angle to it, right? So any decisions that are there with an AI system, there is definitely an explainability angle to it. Most of the decisions that the agent takes will have a view and can reproduce why it took that decision, right? So that is part of the build that we do, the guardrails and the governance that is made possible for most of the agents. But that is within the ecosystem that I operate and we work with our clients. But as we know, there are a lot of agents which are being built by local kind of at a local level, right? Say as an individual contributor, I can use the Copilot and create an agent. And if that agent gives some an answer which is not real or which is not grounded, it is a very much possibility, and there is a risk about that. You cannot manage every single agent which is being created on a system, but we are also evolving, right? Because what we need to also understand is that what is the possible risk, right, of an impact of that agent. If it is just an information or a misinformation that is coming out of an agent which is being disillusioned, right, or hallucinating, then it is a minor risk as compared to a decision that goes wrong and kind of wipes out your entire database of an client, right? That's a massive irreversible risk. So we'll have to honestly evaluate the risk regime as to what is the risk, and then we can decide whether we want to act on every single agent or we want to kind of live with those risks.
Right. Thanks, Bhargav. So, keeping the round theme, we are talking about explainability and transparency. So, Lucian, if a client questions a decision your AI made, how do you explain it to them in simple terms that build trust? Now, let's talk about the trust that you built.
Yeah, partially I answered already to the question earlier when I was talking about transparency and about observability layer, which is highly critical. And I think having AI systems that talk to everyone in their own language. Language is not only the key, but the terminology is also the key, because a manager expects an output in a certain format. Then a developer wants the same idea, the same output, but maybe in a different format with more or less details, depending on the case, right? So questioning the decision that AI is made, it's natural, because it's also natural in development, software development, to question any decision that is being taken, right? You always need to predict and see a few steps ahead when you build systems. So it's really, you can say this decision is correct, maybe only retroactively, right? But the clients usually are not questioning the decisions that the AI made, but more the accuracy of the information, of the knowledge that AI retrieves. So here, it's indeed very important to have a layer of additional observability. So in terms of preparing or setting expectation, preparing clients and setting expectation on the accuracy of the responses, and the decisions that are made on top of grounded of that knowledge that is retrieved. You need to have sources. You need to have scores like confidence scores and similarity scores, semantic similarity scores that indicates them and really make them trust the response. If a response, it's like in science as well. If you have your response with citations and it's grounded into some references that someone else confirmed, validated before, you have more trust in that scientific paper. And here is very much the same. I think building AI systems mirrors a lot, and we have to learn a lot from how humans were building in time on top of previous knowledge. So we could trust the previous knowledge and set the predictions for the outcomes that were like human generated before that.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty much the same in energetic AI. It's probably the first time when we're actually mirroring this human behavior in AI systems or in software system, machines real.
Yeah. Right. It's, definitely setting expectations up front, would also really help. So Bhargav, maybe you can already, you've already answered your opinion as well on transparency and, explainability, but also want to understand when you deploy AI for a client, how open are you about what the AI can and can't do? Do clients appreciate that honesty?
I think it's a no-brainer, honestly, to kind of be completely transparent. It's not about policy. See, we all have evolved in the last 20 years on various systems, right? Which has kind of been able to hide some of the capabilities. A lot of those front ends we remember there was nothing in the back end, just front end showing to the client. With agentic AI, everything is very transparent, right? Everybody knows what's coming out because it's intuitive. It's very fast, right? You have, say, 20 seconds within which the agent would respond or would act, right? So what we do is we basically say it's not a courtesy, it's a mandate that you have to be very open. And there are multiple reasons for it, right? When we look at an agentic AI noise that is there in the system, the kind of negative impact and the negative noise that is coming from all the angles of the world, saying that agentic AI will take jobs, it will kind of reduce all those cognitive abilities, and all the negative things are coming up, right? Now, if you're trying to go for an adoption of an agentic system in this noise, and if you don't create that trust that, okay, we are telling you what the agent is good at, what you need to be watchful of, and where you should definitely take kind of a human in the loop, or maybe a definitive decision making authority when the agent is delivering, right? So that is how we operate, right? We create that view, and we make it very clear that the agent is kind of capable of 5 things. There's 2 things you can evaluate, but it's not the best output that we recommend you to it. And the last 2 things, you should never do it. And when I drive those discussions with my kind of clients and their end users, right, we very clearly call it out. So that is one, building that trust, right? And once we build that trust, what happens is that there are leaders who drive that trust and drive that adoption. So when we say, okay, I say, for an example, I have an agent which is kind of supporting legal compliances, right? And if my chief compliance officer doesn't buy it, none of his team members are going to use it, right? So if I don't be very transparent with that leader and say, okay, I can reduce, say, 60% of your pain by this agent. Let's 40% is still going to remain, but we can work on it in phase 2, phase 3, right? So that agent capability and kind of openness would make that leader a champion and kind of drive the adoption, right? So because we are looking at 2 things, right? Not just the governance part of it, but we are also looking at the ROI part of it, right? As a business, all of us are eventually trying to put lots and lots of money on agentic AI to get value out of it, right? So if there is no adoption, there is no value delivery. So that is how I see it. It is going to be a very difficult thing if we don't do it. And the second piece is, how do we make sure that who is responsible and who is capable of taking decisions when agent goes wrong or rogue, right? That liability gap management is what I call it, agentic liability gap, and that has to be managed. There is no framework right now which kind of tells, okay, if the agent goes wrong, how do you manage it? That is something that is evolving. A lot of us are also trying to put guardrails around it. If my agent gives me a wrong answer or does a wrong decision, how do I course correct it, right? That is an continuously evolving field, and lot more efforts are being put into that. So that is what I'll say.
Mhm, mhm. Thanks, Bhargav. So before we move into the final verdict, which is round number 5, I'd like Ahmed to close this round by telling us, since this is also one important question that we would like to understand from governance standpoint. When should governance be introduced in an AI project? At the start, in the middle, or after launch? Where do you think most organizations get this wrong?
Okay, for governance, should be your journey mate. So you can't even in the beginning. It's a journey. Governance should be in all stages regarding starting from the development, starting from the ideation, sorry, and also development, testing, post implementation, and post implementation. Or governance should be there, should accompany you along to the journey. Uh, this is not a bottleneck, or not, or some organization consider it as a bottleneck. But in the beginning, you should define at the beginning the accountability, the risk appetites, the usage regarding the rules and regulations, the approval passes, the model of ownership, the acceptable usage of AI cases, the AI cases ownership. All of this should be defined at the beginning of the use case. Also, you have to be aligned with all units, should be aligned regarding what will gonna happen regarding the workflow and the decision passes and the decision rights. Also, during the development, you should ensure the governance monitor the model, the data quality, the explainability, the testing. Also, regarding the third-party control, as Bahrajaf said and Lucien said, regarding you should ensure where your data will go, the privacy issues, you should gain trust. Also, regarding the change management, because as you go, all people from business sides and from other sides sometimes change the scope, change the direction. You should manage the changes very, very precise when it comes to the agents, because if you didn't manage it at the end, you will not be able to fix anything related to the agent. Also, after launch is very, very, very important. So you should have a continuous monitoring team in place. Also, you have to control the drift in direction. If the agent hallucinate, if something goes wrong, you should have a precise workflow and teams that who will gonna manage this with the business and what will be impacted and what services and what to be restored and what time it will consume the organization regarding the recovery. Also, the auditability. You have to, as Lucien said, you have to check that audit trails in place. That you because you will go back to these trails, see what gonna happen wrong to be able to fix this. Also, regulatory compliance. All of this after launch is very, very, very important. Adding to this, the human oversight. The biggest mistake organization may took on that led AI took a very, very critical decisions without oversight because sometimes the model might become wrong in any stage of it development. So this is what briefly what should be taken, because governance is not setting the policies and procedures at the beginning of the project and then leave the project and quit. It should be accompanying in all the times of projects. As you will end up now, some business units, what's the biggest thing I see now? That some organization business units, everyone want to use AI, I want to use a pilot, I want to use an agent, I have development this, I want to go. And you will end up, you will have a shadow AIT adoption all over the organization. No single governance managing or managing the approval and the controls over all over these agents.
Right. Thanks, Ahmed, for sharing your views on here. So we've arrived to the final verdict, the last round. And I think, since we also want to give time to our audience here to ask questions to our panelists, I will pick up only one question, maybe open it to, the panelists to answer. But of course, this question is first for Bhargav, where we are going to talk about lessons and the road ahead. So, Bhargav, as AI systems become more independent, making decisions on their own, how does governance need to change to keep up? This is my question to you, but I also, after you're done, I also keep it open for Ahmed or Lucien if they have any inputs to share once Bhargav is done. Yes.
So I think I answered it partly as to how do we address this, but three things I would say. One, from what we have been doing is a governance which is more based on the decisions. Now, when I say that, if something goes wrong, or we kind of have a deterministic output and that the governance happens on that. Now, with agentic AI and kind of things moving at a very, very fast pace, and kind of it can have dynamically anytime, right? We have a chain of agents. Any agent can interpret it in a different way, and the output changes, right? It multiplies, the effect multiplies. So what I say is the action governance, right? So we need to have a governance which is very, very actionable, which is active governance rather than a passive governance. So that's one way of managing it. The second is kind of continuation, that is kind of a runtime where we have the guardrails, and as Ahmed was also mentioning, the teams who are capable of maintaining any impact of the wrong decisions taken by the agents, right? So that's the second piece of it. And the third one basically is around how do we make sure that the models that are coming, if the drift that is happening because of the model in the multi-agent system, how do we manage it, right? How do we monitor and manage that multi-agent system? So it's going to be very critical. So that's at a very high level, I would say, given that we have kind of spoken a lot of about it. But that's at a very summary level, my answer.
Thanks, Bhargav. Just wanted to quickly check in with, Lucian and Ahmed as well, if you have any inputs, and we will take that as the last round and closing for the panel discussion and open it for the Q&A. So if you have any, closing words on, Bhargav's question or any input that you'd like to give on the governance standpoint.
Yes, I want to add. Sorry.
Yes, Ahmed.
I want to add to paragraph 3 points, 3 main points in a brief. First of all, you have to work, all organizations should work to enhance employee capabilities, to focus on creating high values from regarding the decision. You should use the human in more or high critical mission tasks that requires a human brain, because now we have seen AI, you should delegate to the AI the business as usual tasks, that it is not requiring very critical business decisions that cost the organization a lot. So you should enhance your employees' capabilities to focus on high critical tasks. Even at the same time, you should manage the fear. AI is not there to replace, by the way, any of the employees or any of the people doing job. It's going to enhance the capabilities. Everyone in his place should think how he can use the tools to enhance the team capabilities and outputs, also to improve the value for the organization and to provide value to all stakeholders, from top management to customers, even for the economic growth, even for his things. Also, you have to encourage in place the accountability in decision making, because at the end, every agent or every use case, people will be accountable at the end, because you will not go and anyone says the agent have become wrong. No, we have become wrong. So you should define who is we and who is what. So all of these things should be defined. Organizations should focus on before going forward with the journey of AI. Thank you.
Great. Thanks to our panel. Before I close my moderation and open the round for Q&A, just want to do one last thing. I want to know from each one of you, just one word, right? What does responsible AI mean to you at its core? No explanation. If you can just give, one word, what does responsible AI mean to you?
Accuracy for me.
Accuracy for Lucian, Bhargav, Ahmed?
Future for me.
Future, very well said.
Accountability.
Yes, governance, accountability.
Yeah, very well said. Agree.
Very, very well said.
Yes.
Thank
But
you.
here
I think
is a debate behind this, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, I think we've had a very wonderful closing session, in fact, for our AI adoption, where we spoke about governance, right? Who is responsible when things go wrong? So I'm sure, our audience here have a lot of questions that they want to be answered. It's coming, I'm assuming, from YouTube, from LinkedIn. So I'm going to give the time to Simran, if she can take over and post the questions for our panelists here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. I think this was amazing discussion about how AI's accountability is more crucial than ever, since it's not a business requirement anymore. It's a non-negotiable for all the companies to see the governance, to hand over governance part of it with the evolution of AI. So my first question, I'd like to pose it to Lucian. This question is there. Lucian, how does the organization assess and govern the impact of business process technology changes on AI automation agents, including required updates to training data, prompts, workflows, and control mechanisms.
Okay, it was a bit the sound was a bit
Yes, I think
dropped.
Simran, it was not
But I
clear.
can
If you
read
can just put
again.
it on chat, yeah. If you can
It
put
is
it
on
on
chat. I
chat.
can read the
All
question
right.
again. So
Okay.
how does the organization assess and
Absolutely.
govern the impact of business process, policy, or technology changes on AI automation agents, including required updates to training data, prompts, workflows, and control mechanisms, so LLM operations, in other words. So here it's I think we can safely call this a new discipline that comes with the rise of AI. And of course, this raises new challenges too, because you will have not only to govern your AI practice, you don't have only to govern the way people are adapting AI tools, but you also need to take care of versioning the AI models. Having a new model or better or more powerful model is not necessarily having a better outcome because it's still undeterministic. Having a new AI system, it's something that will happen for every organization at some point because they are either upgraded on one hand. On the other hand, maybe you just want to migrate, not to be vendor locked in. So these are processes that everyone is tackled. How do you assess and how do you assess the impact before that? It's actually, I think, starting bottom up. You start building the governance even for the beginning. You start with a robust architecture of the system, and then understanding where the joints are. So working on the joints, making them as flexible as possible, making them as configurable as possible, developing internal frameworks or adapting frameworks allows organization to be fast and agile in executing on performing changes and upgrades and or downgrades and evaluation pipelines. So my answer to this would be first, start with governance, start with a robust architecture, make sure you identify where the joints are between the platforms, between the AI models, make sure you have configurable joints everywhere, and these configurations are defining your framework. Then it's very easy to scale and very easy to evaluate the impact, the potential impact of a change, since you have the full control of it. This, of course, it's a both investment in effort and resources, but it works. It's a future investment because otherwise you risk to compromise other processes that are highly critical for the business and in the future, and that it might be more expensive to recover later than making a solid foundation at the beginning. Thank you. So back to you with I'm not sure if are you audible anymore?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sure. So, Bhargav would also want to learn from you, how does the organization assess and govern the impact of business policy, process, and technology changes on AI automation agents?
I think Lucian kind of mentioned some of it, right? And what he's kind of calling it out is kind of a configuration. I call it out a framework, which I've kind of defined as a 1++1 framework, right? So there is kind of a governance layer, which kind of we call it stability layer, which doesn't change with every upgrade or maybe a model shift, right? And then there is kind of a configuration layer, which is the architectural level or layer of the system, right? And I can tell you with my experience of moving from, say, a chat 4.0 to a 5.0 to a 5.2, right? GPT. What happens is that usually if we don't manage it, it goes into a reset loop, right? Which is what I call AI reset loop. So what it means is that you kind of created an agent which is live, which is active, say for 6 months, and suddenly you moved to your underlying LLM. And given you do not have that framework and an architectural in place, you basically go to square one, right? You have to again reset everything. You have to rebuild, retrain your data set. You have to make sure the people are ready with the new versions of it. And that is not the right way of executing any AI systems, right, at scale. So we need to be very clear as to what changes, what is flexible, and what remains constant across the ecosystem, irrespective of the reset that happens or say migration that happens at a model level, at a policy level, right? So that's how we would do it. In terms of assessing the impact on all these prompts and others, it is kind of a structured way of doing a impact assessment, right? Typical We used to have this impact assessment as part of the change advisory board, which used to govern all those CABs, right? Now with agentic AI, the CABs will have to be more grounded to the AI reality, with the changes that are happening and the nuances of it, right? So it is an evolving field, I would say. How do we manage at a practice level, from a change management, IT systems change management, not a people change management? But that is what needs to be done. It is an evolving area, I would surely say that.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much. I think with governance, there are a lot of moving parts, and we are still assessing how the organizations are trying to measure the impact and the policies regarding that. So thank you so much, Bhargav, for your answer, and thank you so much, Lucin, as well. Another question I'd like to pose to Ahmed is, Ahmed, how can organizations create a unified governance framework that simultaneously addresses risk at the data training layer, the third party model layer, supply chain trust, transparency, leakage, and the agent development layer, emerging behaviors, misuse without fragmenting responsibilities across siloed teams? I will also make sure that I'll paste it on the chat so you can see it recently. This is from Jay Shankar Prasad.
Yes. The answer for this question could take a full session. Yes, because every part in the question is very, very uh, section, a unified section itself. But let me give you some things that should be in place regarding a unified framework. You now enterprises and large organizations, what they face, as I have said before, the time to market, and everyone want to develop a tool and be there, and everyone want to develop. So each business units are now fighting together to, now I want to have this tool, also struggling with the IT infrastructure, also struggling with project management teams, and all of this uh, uh, procedures in place. So, and you are promoting now the speed to market. You have to be an agile. There is to be some agility. So, first of all, you have to define the framework regarding each business unit or each along the organization with all units that should be there. This is the skeleton of what everyone should follow regarding, and everyone after that want to build and put in place what product he want. So you should have the governance start with defined path regarding the decision rights, who will develop, and if anyone develop in place anything, what is the approval cycle, what is things that he should go through to get his model approved and published even to the customer. So you should have the policy in place approved by the board. You should have the procedures and policies in place regarding the managerial level to be in place, and setting the operational procedure to everyone. This should be, by the way, unified along the organization. So this, you should have the policy in place regarding the framework. You should have the policy, the procedures, and the operating procedures to anyone in place, the standardized process if he develop or go to use the AI. Also, you have to check regarding the bias. You should have the privacy and the security in place, because now people of cybersecurity will not let go alone without checking the privacy of the data. Where's the data sources? Where's the data go? Who can use the data? Does the data can be leakage or not? Does the agent would use this data to answer any question exposed by any organization or any person? Or even if you are dealing with financial data cannot be exposed to the publicity or be used anywhere because it's very, very sensitive data. Also, you have to ensure the behavior and the misuse. This should be defined. I think we will end up that you will have a team like we say the emergency team, that he will be responsible to the agent, like we now have, all people have incident management team. I don't know what will be called, if an AI incident management team or not. So it will be responsible for a precise actions to be taken immediately, because if you want to get to isolate an agent or do something or the disconnect an agent, this should be defined, because at the end, as Lucian said, it's a joint, it's a complete, it's a comprehensive. These agents will talk to each other, so you have to ensure if this agent's gone wrong, does it will impact the other agents or not. So immediate actions should be defined in place for anyone in the organization to know it if he is going to develop an AI or use AI tools in his business framework. So this will be, as long as this have been defined and have been sent along the organization, and you should have an awareness campaigns all every now and then regarding the people that are going to use an AI, what they should do and what the path and what is the workflow and what is the approval cycle to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed, for that detailed answer. And to be honest, yes, I think there are a lot of layers, and we cannot probably sum it up under one question. Would like
Yes.
to also learn from Lucin or Bhargav if they want to also add on top of what Ahmed had said regarding the questions on how can organization create a unified governance framework. So if any one of you would like to volunteer and answer this question, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can add on that. So we also developed we call it Prodigy, right? Because it's also like an early approach on tackling the governance as well, right? And tackling the technical radar as well for building with AI. So within this framework, we focus on different layers. As Bhargav mentioned earlier, we have the architectural layer first of all, and then we have everything what could be orchestrated. So it orchestrated. So it's agents, or bring your own agent concept, different LLM, different models, as well as aligning the vision and the expectations between LLMs, which are at the core of the agents, and the agents themselves, as well as skills, as well as different other deterministic systems that are being integrated. So I think this pretty much covers the vision on how to develop such a framework. Is basically gather them all into a knowledge representation layer, query that knowledge, which by knowledge now I'm not referring only to information like in a traditional sense. The knowledge can be also the metadata of the systems too. So we are working with both metadata and data in the same place, understanding them and retrieving them at the runtime, gathering them into a knowledge representation layer, and then orchestrating agents against that knowledge. It's the art of building a framework like this. It's of course a journey, but that's definitely the foundations of it. Thank you.
That is perfect. Bhargav, any last statements that you want to add?
I think there's a lot of things and a lot of layers to it, right? Unified governance is kind of is mandatory, I would say, with the agentic AI. Both Ahmed and Lucin kind of dwell deeper into it. But if I were to kind of envision maybe a future state, right, which is say 3 years down the line, where we have possibly a complete native AI ecosystem, or maybe a part of it which is completely within a silo doing an end-to-end agentic AI work. We need to have a control tower, as I mentioned earlier, that will have all the kind of aspects to it, right? One is monitoring, auditing, reinforcement of any corrective actions, and everything will have to be done at a pace with the way agentic operating system works, right? It's kind of a governance operating model is what I would say, where we will have to build that built in before we launch any end-to-end ecosystem in place. So that's at a very, very summarized level. That is what we need to do as an organization, as a practice, or as a community, before we kind of allow all these agents to kind of go start building and executing stuff for us.
Yes, that is perfect. Thank you, all three of you, for giving your insights on these questions. I think we can begin concluding. Participants, if you have any questions, anything that you want to share, or anything that you want mentorship with our panelists, then I will make sure I will also share their LinkedIn profiles. So you can definitely reach out to them on their LinkedIns, follow them, connect with them, and I'm sure that all of them will be more than happy to help you out as well. I'll just share it towards the end of the session, so please stay tuned while I share the, all right, here, we have our LinkedIn profiles for all three speakers. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Thank you so much, Lucian. Thank you so much, Bhargav, for taking your time out, for giving us expert level insights and great, amazing constructive knowledge on everything. Participants, I see that there are a lot of reactions from our participants as well, which probably tells that this session has been incredibly insightful and amazing as well. While I begin with the closing ceremony, I want to apologize to Bhargav as well for announcing the designation wrong. Bhargav is again the head of senior director and head of business at LTM. So thank you so much again to all three of you for coming together and giving such a great, insightful session today. If you're also looking to get certified into GSTC's AI certification programs, we do have AI Foundations, AI Tools Mastery, and Agentic AI Domain Specialist, AI Integrator, and AI Guardian, and many more. What we do here is the GSTC Spotlight of the Week, where we encourage all of our participants to document their learnings and share it with GSTC by tagging us on your social medias, on your LinkedIn. So you can get also featured on our GSTC Spotlight of the Week, and we also provide you surprise vouchers towards the end for the winners. So make sure you are documenting your learning, not just listening, but also sharing it with the world and your network to get spotlight. And these are some of our platforms for connecting. We share a lot of our insights on WhatsApp channel, WhatsApp community, where you'll be able to learn more about our upcoming sessions, our WhatsApp community, our events that we host daily, our YouTube channel, where we also do post all the recordings of these incredible sessions, so you can also check them out. With that, we have completed our From Hype to Impact AI adoption journey, from value to deployment, orchestrate, upskill, and finally governance, with our incredible panel of Ahmed, Lucian, and Bhargav again. So thank you so much, guys.
Yes, thank you.
This is the
Thank you.
end of AI adoption journey. Thank you, everybody,
Thank
for
you.
joining.
Thank you for
Thank you to
having
all of our
us.
panelists, and thank you to all our participants. Absolutely. I will see you in next sessions. Until then, you make sure that you keep learning and keep the enthusiastic going. Have a great day or good night wherever you've joined from. It's me, Simran, and thank you so much again. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Have a good day.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.